This episode was originally uploaded on October 21st, 2024, and the full season is out now on Spotify or wherever you get your pods, baby.
It's Lucky's really long list of movies. Anyone still there? Woo! I am so excited to talk about today's movie. If anything, I'm just happy to be done with Roman Polanski. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know, check out last week's episode about Rosemary's Baby. Jeez Louise. Eagerly moving on. So this week, we are talking about CANDYMAN. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. I thought I would only be talking about CANDYMAN from 2021. But if you watch the CANDYMAN from 2021, you gotta watch the CANDYMAN movie from 1992. And then if you watch and learn about the 1992 version, then you'll find out that there was more CANDYMAN from 1995 and 1999. And those are wild and seem to be very camp. And I haven't seen the 1995 or the 1999 version yet, but I will one day. So, the reason this movie is on my list is because it was heavily recommended by one of my grooming clients. Yeah, I'm a dog groomer. Have I told you all that before? Well, I am. Not as much these days, but I still groom this giant buffalo bear dog. His name is Brixton, and I love him so much, and he loves me so much, and he has such a big personality, and he's obsessed with Santa, and I have been grooming this baby since he was, well, a baby. And when I say grooming, I mean a haircut. I know you're like, grooming? It's a dog. It's a dog. I'm giving a haircut to a dog. But for real, I've been giving him haircuts since he was a little baby. He was 4 months old for his first haircut, and now he is 9 years old, and he still acts like he's a little baby. I love him so much. He has the biggest brown eyes, and he also has the sweetest, coolest, kindest, super pet parents. I appreciate them so much. I won't use their real names because I'm not using my real name, but CANDYMAN was recommended to me by Brixton's mom. So Bricky's mom, and Brixton has a lot of nicknames: Bricky, Brix, Brixie, Bricka-Bracka, Brick and Chicken, you know. So Bricky's mom was probably the first and possibly only person to talk to me about CANDYMAN. And now that I've seen it, that's crazy to me. She told me it's her favorite. She watches the original about 3 times a year during Halloween. So, for the podcast, the only CANDYMAN I could get my hands on was the 2021 CANDYMAN. So, I saw the 2021 CANDYMAN first. And then the next time I saw Brixton and his mom, I was like, I watched CANDYMAN, it was so good. And then Brixton's mom was like, oh my God, the original, what did you think about the original? And I was like, I couldn't find it. I told her that I tried to find the 1992 CANDYMAN on the internet, and it was nowhere to be found. I couldn't even rent it on YouTube. And I don't mind the YouTube rentals. They're pretty cheap mostly, but I could not find it. I saw that it used to be on YouTube, but it was missing or it's taken down for some reason. So I told Bricky's mom about, this dilemma I was having. And then she let me borrow her precious collector's edition CANDYMAN DVD. What an honor. I took out the old PS3 and I was able to watch the original CANDYMAN. And all I can say is thank you, Mother of Brixton, for sharing this with me. It was a fantastic 90s Halloween movie. And I'm definitely adding this 1992 movie to my Halloween movie rotation. So let's all thank Bricky's super sweet mom for putting CANDYMAN on my list and allowing me to borrow one of her most prized possessions. Thank you. So today, we will be talking about the big question. Which Candyman was better, the 1992 version or the 2021 Candyman? I see this question pop up a lot. So let's get into it. Okay, so about my first take. So my first take is only of the 2021 Candyman, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's pretty boring. It is. It's very boring, my first take, because I was still in shock. Not really shock, but I was still digesting the entire message. And honestly, the 2021 Candyman left me feeling pretty similar to the way I felt when I saw Parasite for the first time. It was a big message to digest, but it was very, very good. And the message is very, very important. And we will definitely get into that. But also with Parasite, because remember the first half of Parasite had all the fun and it was crazy and it was fun and exciting. And then boom, it had a really huge message and a lot of horror that happened at the end. And Candyman wasn't split in two halves like that, but it definitely had a lot of cool horror movie stuff in it. It had a lot of cool movie stuff in it, and it brought the drama, and then it also brought this really big message. So all in all, it was really cool. It was really cool, and I wasn't really confused about anything. So I thought that was cool. And yeah, I'm so sorry. This is the worst first take I've ever done, and I'm very sorry. But this is actually more entertaining than my actual first take. So that should tell you how boring the first take really was. I think the 2021 movie is so, so, so good. Also, the 1992 Candyman, holy smokes, I loved it so much. I would actually like to start talking about the Candyman 1992 movie. And then from there, we'll move on to Candyman 2021. And that is our itinerary for today. So get comfortable. You can lay your chair back, grab a blanket, maybe a little snacky snack. I don't know. Do whatever you want. We're moving forward. Okay. As much as I would love to do my annoying 1-minute recap, because, that joy was stolen from me on my last episode by Roman Polanski and his gross ass, I cannot do my usual recap for Candyman because there are 2 recaps needed, and the 2021 Candyman has an important message about the racist history of America, and it seems disrespectful to blab and giggle my way through the plot. We'll just start talking about Candyman 1992. So, the plot of Candyman 1992, the original, this is the first Candyman movie. So there's this white lady. Her name is Helen, and Helen is a grad student working on her thesis about folklore. She is focusing on the housing projects of Cabrini Green, where an infamous ghost called Candyman is rumored to be behind a slew of mysterious deaths within the projects. And Helen is married to a creepy, balding college professor who is cheating on her with one of his young, impressionable students. Gross. He's also weirdly underwhelmed by dead people in his living room. But anyway, so Helen, she visits Cabrini Green over and over and over again. She's collecting photos from abandoned apartments rumored to be where Candyman claimed his victims. So people were killed in these apartments, and she goes and she takes pictures. So Helen finds out that the ghost of Candyman originates back to the 1800s. So back in the 1800s, there was an African-American artist who was the son of the enslaved, and he ended up being murdered by a lynch mob. And the name of this artist is Daniel Robitaille. Daniel was a portrait painter and was highly popular with the rich white people. He was hired to paint a portrait of a wealthy white guy's daughter. And the daughter and Daniel, they fall in love, and she becomes pregnant. And then the dumbass daughter tells her rich white dad that she got pregnant, and then the rich white dad sends out a lynch mob to kill Daniel. The mob chases Daniel, cuts off his hand, and they shove a meat hook in the bloody stump. The mob also takes honeycomb from hungry bees, and they cover Daniel with honey. Daniel dies from bee stings. The mob would then burn and mock the body of Daniel Robitaille by chanting sweets for the sweet, because he was covered in honey, while throwing candy into the fire. And they would also chant, "Candyman, yuck." And the legend is, if you look in the mirror and you say Candyman 5 times, the spirit of Candyman will appear and claim you as his victim. Of course, Helen ends up summoning Candyman, and Candyman is almost infatuated with Helen. Maybe it's because she could resemble his past love that resulted in his murder. Well, Helen keeps having visions and blackouts revolving around seeing Candyman. And then Helen would awaken from these Candyman blackouts covered in blood and usually surrounded by death that apparently she is responsible for. And one of the blackouts resulted in a decapitated dog and the kidnapping of a tiny little baby who was the son of one of the Cabrini Green residents. People and the police obviously think Helen is crazy and that she's a crazy murderer, kidnapper, and she gets locked up and committed. She ends up breaking out of the ward and runs back to Cabrini Green, finds Candyman, and swerves his advances and rejects his offer to join him in the afterlife. Helen then hears a crying baby, and she follows the cries into the giant bonfire pit in the middle of the housing projects. Candyman put the baby in the pit because Helen refused his offer. So Helen goes into the pit, and she gets the baby, only to have the residents mistake Helen for Candyman, and then the residents ignite the bonfire. Helen crawls out of the fire with the baby and returns the cutie little baby back to his mother, and then Helen passes away from her burns. And with her death, the Candyman spirit is at rest, I think. So the 1992 Candyman was based on a short story, The Forbidden, by Clive Barker, who was also known for his horror writing. Jesus Christ. So for his horror writing, this is a very hard word for all of us, isn't it? So Clive Barker, he's also someone who inspired the horror movies like Hellraiser. And Hellraiser is one of my favorites. I have seen that one. I've seen it over and over and over again. Anyway, so Clive's story, The Forbidden, the story was adapted to take place in America, specifically Chicago, at the Cabrini Green housing projects, which are real, by the way. There are two-story row houses that still remain from the original Cabrini Green, and everything else was demolished and built over. No, they didn't build or renovate buildings for the residents of Cabrini Green, but what the city ended up doing is what all cities do, is they gentrified the area, which is where they kick out all of the people from the housing projects, they tear down their buildings, and then they build up other buildings that are considered upscale buildings, but they will only rent it out to people with higher incomes. It's really gross. And, well, we should stop renting out of these buildings. Yuck. And they're ugly as fuck. They're always ugly as hell. Anyway, another thing to know about the original Candyman is the actors and the bees. So let's start with Tony Todd. If you don't know that name, remember it. I don't know, maybe say it 5 times. Tony Todd, Tony Todd, Tony Todd, Tony Todd, Tony Todd. So, Tony Todd played Candyman, the original Candyman, and he has such an incredible voice. He can really make his voice low and rumble like thunder. Not like, that was bad. He can make his voice really low, and it really does sound rumbly like thunder. It's so cool. And I wasn't surprised when I looked him up and saw that he studied and worked with award-winning theater companies and institutions. He's an incredible actor that brings this Shakespearean drama to the world of horror. And he is one of the horror greats for sure. Also with Tony Todd, he's only had really cool things to say about the remake. Let me read some of that off for you now. So, when it comes to the Candyman remake of the 1992 movie, Tony Todd, he had a really cool attitude about just the entire thing. So, in regards to Jordan Peele, remaking the movie, Tony Todd said, "I'd rather have him do it. Someone with intelligence who's going to be thoughtful and dig into the whole racial makeup of who the Candyman is and why he existed in the first place." He said that when he learned about the remake. And then he also said about Jordan Peele, he said, "I know that he's a fan, and I'm hoping that I will appear in the film in some form of fashion. Wouldn't that make sense? But it's Hollywood, so I won't take it personally if it doesn't work out. If this new one is successful, it will shed light back on the original, and I think that the subject matter is more important than any individuals, and I mean that." Ugh. You know, there was like a lot going on in the 2021 production. Like, there was like rumors going around, like, is Tony Todd gonna revive his role? And then it was kind of leaked. The cast list was leaked, and then we saw that Tony Todd was not going to be portraying, Anthony McCoy, right? So Tony Todd, he gave his blessings to the new Candyman on Twitter, and he says, "Cheers to the Candyman, a wonderful character that I lived with for 25 years. He's brought grace and glory and a beautiful boatload of friends and family. I'm honored that the spirit of Daniel Robitaille and Cabrini Green rises again. Truth to power. Blessings to the cast and crew." He's such a good guy. It was so nice looking into everyone that's like associated with these movies and not finding anything heartbreaking and disgusting. So, Roman Polanski, enough about that guy, and more about Tony Todd and the actors of Candyman from 1992. We have Tony Todd, the original Candyman, right? Horror legend. And then we have Virginia Madsen. And Virginia Madsen is the lady who played Helen, okay? And Virginia, she has a long acting resume spanning across silver screens and TV screens. But what is really interesting about Virginia and her experience with playing Helen is that Virginia is allergic to bees. She's allergic to bees. She is allergic to bees. Which is insane because the 1992 Candyman had practical effects. We love practical effects. Those were not CGI bees. Those were real bees. In the Candyman 1992, there is this incredible scene where Helen finds Candyman and he like hypnotizes her and then he lays her down on an altar. And he's telling Helen about the future that they could have together in the afterlife. And then he opens up his coat, and his rib cage is just full of live bees. And then a sea of bees. Sea of bees. Alphabet jokes. Okay, so then a sea of bees comes pouring out of Candyman's mouth onto Helen's face, and then he kisses her. Ugh, this scene is so cool. So cool. I love practical effects. I love it. So more about these bees, right? So the bees always play an integral part of the Candyman lore. This Candyman movie used over 200,000 bees. Yeah. The crew wore special suits to prevent themselves from getting stung, and Tony Todd was stung about like 23 times during the film's shooting, and Tony Todd negotiated a $1,000 bonus for every sting he endured. Yes! Love to see it. Way to go, Tony. Hazard pay is one of those things that capitalism doesn't want us to know about. If you have a job, period. Sorry, that's my stomach. Can you hear it? I'm hungry for the rich. So if you have a job at all, look up hazard pay. Just Google it. Just Google hazard pay. I feel like all of us should have hazard pay at this point because the world is crazy. But anyway, so Tony Todd, I love saying his name. Tony Todd also wore a special mouth guard for the bees in his mouth. And the mouth bees took over half an hour to get into his legendary mouth. Could you imagine working so hard on your articulators. And if you're an actor or if you work in like with your voice at all, if you're singing, voiceover, whatever, your articulators are like your lips, your tongue, your teeth. You have to train all of that when you become an actor or you work with your voice or you're like a professional speaker. You have to work with all of that. My articulators are very lazy and I'm slurring all over the place. But Tony Todd is trained. I just can't imagine doing all that training and then you just get a mouthful of bees. Insane. So, the bees. It is said that the bees themselves were bred for this movie, and they used younger bees that looked like mature bees because when they're younger, the stingers and stuff, they're not like fully mature. So Todd says that he was covered in like bee queen jelly to keep the bees on him. And yeah, Virginia Madsen, Helen, allergic to bees, and she had 500 bees poured onto her. 500 bees. Do y'all remember Fear Factor? But anyway, so 500 bees, but these were baby bees and they were poured onto her, and the babies are flightless and did not have stingers. Like the adult ones that were, or the adolescent ones that were put on Tony, some of them might have had stingers, but they weren't like fully formed. But with the ones put on Virginia, they did not have stingers at all. They were babies. Science! Also, Virginia, the bees aren't the only thing that she overcame in this movie. Virginia, she was hypnotized. She was hypnotized. Virginia Madsen was hypnotized by a professional hypnotist before her scenes with CANDYMAN. So all those scenes where she's like in a trance or like she's like, she looks crazy and like all this stuff when she's like coming face to face with CANDYMAN, that is because she is under hypnosis and the director and Tony had words that would like trigger this hypnosis. Yeah. And this was done because the director, Bernard Rose, he thought that the screams in horror movies were really cliche. Yeah, sure. You know, I love a good shriek, but that's not like really how like women panic. Maybe a yelp here and there. We'll go, ah, we'll get startled, but then we get really serious and we get really quiet when shit goes down. Men are the screamers. They scream and they yell and they all this stuff. And how do I know this? Because I watch ghost hunting, and watching femme people versus masculine people ghost hunting is very interesting, and it's very, very different. It's very the femme people, they get like really quiet and they like take in their surroundings, and then the masculine guys are like, ah! And I love watching them all. So the hypnosis part of it all is very interesting, and it sounds like it was done professionally and consensually. So way to go, Virginia and Tony, for getting through this movie that they did so good on. And they both like fought for these roles too, so they definitely wanted to be there. So yay, we love Virginia and Tony. Ow, ow, ow! So the 1992 version also captured my heart with all of the drama in this movie. There was so much telenovela level drama in this film. I was drooling. An example of this is when Helen escapes the psych ward and she goes to her home only to walk into a redecorated apartment. And we hear sounds that sounds like sex, but it was the husband's mistress using a foam roller on the wall. Oh God, that entire scene, and it goes down in the kitchen, and it was just a classic. You're cheating on me with your new little toy. Go ahead, call the ward. Lock me up. I know you want to. God, I love that scene so much. And then there was like the drama and the sexual tension between Helen and CANDYMAN. There's like always a strange sexual tension in horror movies. It's insane, especially between the killer and his victims. Or her victims, or their victims. And Helen, I will say, you should have taken him up on his offer. And here are my reasons why. 1, CANDYMAN is really handsome. I know. The bloody hook and the exposed torso, ribs and all, is a little hard to get past. But he has a great style, he has a great voice, and he's handsome, especially as far as like urban legends go. He's handsome. 2, the baby. It's either you or the baby. Hello? 3, everyone thinks you beheaded a dog, killed your best friend, kidnapped a helpless baby, lost your marbles, killed your psychiatrist, and broke out of a psych ward. Okay? 4, your husband is cheating, and he's not as handsome as Candyman. 5, as much work as you are putting into this thesis that you're doing, no one's gonna fucking care. No one's gonna care, unfortunately. So you might as well just join forces with Candyman because it's inevitable anyway. I don't know what was keeping her from being like, sure, I literally have nothing left to lose. I'm gonna join ya. So it's really easy for me to see why Candyman from 1992 is a cult classic. But it's not a big cult classic. What are we doing? Why isn't this... Do you remember back in the day during Halloween time and you had cable, they would just play Halloween movies like all day. Maybe they would even play one Halloween movie all day so everyone has a chance to see it. Candyman deserves its own channel. It does. I love Candyman so much. So this movie is a favorite, not only of mine, I'm a brand new fan, but this movie is a favorite for a lot of horror fans and an inspiration to one of the biggest horror filmmakers of our time, Jordan Peele. So that brings us to Candyman 2021. I watched this one first, because there was like a lot of issues getting my hands on the first one and blah, 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 right? I liked both movies a lot. And the way the 2021 Candyman was made was very welcoming to new Candyman fans. When I watched this movie, I didn't feel left out or behind, and it can definitely be watched on its own if you want. If you want to do that, fine. I think you should watch the old one as well. I'm just saying. This Candyman movie does not follow the narrative of a white lady or anyone that is like supposedly related to Helen or Candyman. If anything, this might be the most serious Candyman movie. And again, it made me feel the same way that Parasite did. The 2021 Candyman is a direct sequel to the original Candyman. This movie was heavily anticipated by the Candyman fan base, and everyone was really curious how the lore was going to be treated. I am a brand new Candyman fan. I haven't seen all of the movies, and I haven't read the story it was based on. It takes me a really long time to read. But I am starting to sink in to the lore, and I really, really like what this 2021 Candyman added. Ugh, it's so cool. For starters, Anthony. Anthony is the lead in the 2021 movie. And Anthony is baby Anthony. Yeah, the baby that was in the bonfire, that was Anthony. And now he's all grown up, and just like Daniel Robitaille, Anthony is an artist that has experienced fame among rich white people. Turns out Anthony is pulled to make art inspired by Cabrini Green and Candyman. This pull gets Anthony stung by a mysterious bee while visiting Cabrini Green, and Anthony comes in contact with a laundromat owner, William Burke. And William Burke grew up in Cabrini Green. So through this new friendship, new acquaintanceship with Burke, Anthony learns all about the history of Candyman, the curse, or Candyman the spirit. It's not just one guy. He learns about all of the tragic killings and murders of Candyman, and Candyman now is like no longer this folklore muse for Anthony. Over time, Anthony starts to spiral, and he becomes obsessed with the Candyman spirit. And he even brings Candyman back. Yeah, the baby from the bonfire is the one who brings back the spirit of Candyman. Candyman comes, and he comes back and he slashes and he kills all of the jerks in the movie. You know when you're watching a horror movie and there is just this one asshole that is determined to ruin everything, and they're sexist, racist, and just plain mean, and this meanie somehow makes it to the end of the movie? Ugh, not here. No. All the truly unlikable characters are epically killed in this movie. His artwork becomes famous because this monstrous slaying took place in front of his Candyman piece. So the attention makes Anthony happy until, he ends up hurting his girlfriend Brianna's feelings by being happy about it. Anthony is not too comfortable with this attention because the art critic he just interviewed with is killed shortly after she summons Candyman in the mirror after her interview with Anthony. And Anthony's skin is starting to look infected around this little bee sting that he got. And as the sting gets worse, Anthony starts to see visions, and he has almost the same kind of blackouts that Helen was experiencing. Anthony finally goes to the hospital to get this sting situation looked at, and he finds out that he was actually born near Cabrini Green. And this prompts Anthony to finally call his mom back, and goes to her apartment, and the door opens, and we see Annie Marie McCoy, the mother suffering from a missing child from the first movie. And it's the same actress. This must have been a crazy experience for Candyman fans in theaters. I can only imagine the reaction. She is so recognizable. She even has a cut on her arm from a knife fight from the first Candyman. Anthony's mom fills him in on his own secret past, and that Candyman is absolutely real. After this, Anthony storms off and cannot be found. His girlfriend, who also can't catch a fucking break, poor Brianna, she goes out and she looks for him, and she traces him back to the laundromat, where she is then kidnapped by Burke and taken back to Cabrini Green to complete some sort of ritual that involves Anthony being forced into a catatonic state, his hand sawed off by Burke, a meat hook shoved into his stump, and then Burke calls the cops, and Burke acts like a terrified white person because Burke's plan is to get the cops into Cabrini Green, and the cops will see Anthony, and he has a hook, and they'll shoot him. They probably don't even have to see the hook, let's be real. So they'll see Anthony, they'll shoot him, and they'll kill him on the Cabrini Green grounds. Brianna, the girlfriend, she cuts herself free, and she runs into the dark shadows of the projects and is cornered by Burke. She fights for her life, and she kills Burke with his own pen from his laundromat. Ugh. Anthony finds Brianna. He's not doing too well. You can see the color is starting to drain from his face. One of his eyes is it looks blind, or it's very cloudy. He's just not doing well. So he finds Brianna, and he actually ends up collapsing in her arms, and he's unconscious. And the cops arrive, right? And Brianna calls out for the cops, we're in here, to let the cops know that Anthony needs help. And then the cops, the moment that they come into the room, they shoot the unconscious Anthony 3 times. And they arrest Brianna, who was also blood-soaked and was shot at. The cops throw Brianna in the back of a car, and the cops tell Brianna that she can either take the blame and go to jail, or she can blame it all on Anthony and have his death be a sham, kind of. Actually, absolutely. They would make Anthony the villain, even though he's the absolute victim. They wanted Brianna to say that he was charging at them and all this bullshit. So Brianna was I'll say whatever you want. I just need to look at myself in the mirror. So Brianna, she then summons Candyman, who comes and he kills the cops that killed Anthony. And Candyman instructs Brianna to tell everyone what she saw. And that's where the movie ends. Holy shit. damn. This movie was really, really good, and the social commentary was so important. It was just a really cool thing. This movie's just really cool. There are details everywhere. Again, it's a thrilling movie, and it has like a really big message about society. The reflections in this movie were cool. Everything about this movie is mirrored from the 1992 version. I mean, even the opening credits were mirrored. The production company logos were mirrored. The opening shot was a reverse angle from the first movie. So in the first movie, the opening credits show this like eagle eye view of the Chicago streets, and the 2021 version showed the POV from the streets looking up. And we see these like skyscrapers just disappear into the clouds. It was very unsettling. Also, when I saw this movie for a second time, I did not realize how many times I missed Candyman. Literally every time there is a reflection off of a mirror, a window, glass door, there was Candyman. There he was. Like that last scene in Cabrini Green when Candyman is coming out of one of the apartments. Like he's coming out of the apartment where Anthony was killed, and his head is just a swarm of bees. And we are hearing the iconic Candyman monologue, and Candyman is walking around the cop's SUV, and you can see every soul that was taken and is now part of the Candyman hive in the reflection of the SUV windows. So cool. So cool. Even the narrative of the movie is mirrored. Instead of this being about a white woman or another victim of Candyman, we had the perspective from a black man who joins the Candyman hive. Jordan Peele said that this helps the audience experience the fear that Anthony had. In the 1992 Candyman, we experienced the fear that Helen had. This Candyman movie also showed the violence and absolute threat that the American system inflicts on Black communities, especially systemically poor Black communities, like the immediate and abundant violence from cops. There was also gatekeeping showed, not only with calling out the damned housing projects and gentrification, but Anthony and Brianna had to jump through hoop after hoop just to get Anthony's very worthy work into this pretentious gallery owned by this weird white guy. And with the girlfriend, Brianna, we are showed what Black women are expected to endure and how they're also expected to also hold everyone else up and keep going, you know? Like, Brianna went through so much. She witnessed her father's suicide brought on by mental illness. She was the one who found the bodies at the art gallery she worked at, and she is living with the next soul that will be claimed by Candyman Hive. She is kidnapped. Anthony dies in her arms, and then the cops threaten her with, like, untrue ultimatums. And I bet too many people in her life will expect her to, like, be strong through it all. And not just strong, independently strong, while still being emotionally available for, like, any more bullshit, you know? Like, no one is kind or soft with Brianna, except for her brother. Her brother is, like, I really liked her brother. Yay for siblings seeing you! But with this narrative, as an audience, we really feel for Anthony and Brianna. Like, we see the relationship fall apart. We see Brianna go through it. We see Anthony, and we feel for Anthony's ups and downs. And then there's murder and killings, like in the present, right? But we're not really sad for these people that were killed by Candyman. And then we realize that Candyman is actually a spirit that brings karmic justice for all the lives lost and the blood that was shed due to racism. So a little bit more about the creative team. And I say team because this was like a team effort. So Naya DaCosta. DaCosta worked really close with Jordan Peele with making this movie. So Jordan Peele is the producer, and he helped write this, and DaCosta was the director. And they both worked together on a lot of things with this movie, like the puppetry. aspect. DaCosta, she mentions that they wanted more than just like flashback scenes, and they didn't want to use footage from the original movie because they wanted this Candyman movie to stand on its own and didn't want to have the flashbacks. They really just wanted to have something that would fit the vibe of what it's like for people to remember these legends. And I thought that was really cool. The puppets are just cool. And then the puppetry, instead of doing the flashbacks, helped me as like a first-time Candyman watcher. It helped me like stay up to date with everything without being too confused. I feel like if they did use like flashbacks or if they used like footage from the original movie, I would have been so confused. I probably would have had to stop the movie and be like, I'm gonna ruin everything if I keep watching this movie and I have to watch the first one, then I gotta watch this one. But no, you can watch the 2021 by itself. And I think they did a really cool job with that. I also really noticed the choice to not show Black people getting slaughtered or beaten on screen. I think the most physical violence against Black people on screen was you see like the cops attack Candyman from Burke's flashback. Burke had another flashback where his sister was killed by Candyman and we see her bloody ankle. But we do see Anthony go through quite a lot. His skin is starting to melt and mutate. His eyes are getting screwed up. His hand gets sawed off. So with Candyman, we are aware of all the violence that took place against Black people, ranging from the 1800s all the way to the present date. But showing it on screen, that was such a noticeable choice because I feel like I have seen so many movies where it was just a lot, a lot of movies are like that. Oh, and there's also a lot of Easter eggs in this movie too. Like the music from the film actually has ambient sound woven into it, and the ambient sound is from the real Cabrini Green. It's really cool. And when I watched the movie a second time, I definitely had to pause it and be like, is that the movie or is there a gate outside? Or it's like I would hear like metal clanging and squeaks and, wind blowing through hollow buildings. It was really cool. Another Easter egg is when Burke is telling Anthony about Candyman in the laundromat. Behind Burke is a rack full of dry cleaning, right? And if you look closely, you can see the Candyman jacket in a little plastic bag hanging on the rack. And I mentioned it earlier. There was another Easter egg where Annie Marie McCoy, Anthony's mom, she has the cut on her arm from the fight from the first movie. Then there were like cultural Easter eggs. I don't know if that's what they are, if it's literally just a symbol. I don't know. I thought I knew the difference between symbols, Easter eggs, motifs. I don't. But Anthony's art piece, the say his name, is reminiscent of hashtag say their name from the Black Lives Matter movement from 2020. This movie was also made at a crucial time in American history. Production for this movie started in 2019. Then the pandemic stopped the production, and then the George Floyd murder took place, followed by the murder of Breonna Taylor. Both Black citizens killed mindlessly by the police, and these tragedies ignited outrage throughout the country and the entire world. Everybody was marching. We learned about the Black Lives Matter movement. We started talking more. We started learning more. People were taking to the streets. The world was forever changed. And there is a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done because there is an entire system that needs to be taken down and rebuilt with everyone and all of its citizens in mind. This movie was scheduled to be produced in 2019 and then released in 2020, but due to the pandemic, the release of the movie was pushed back and rescheduled over and over and over until it could finally and safely release into theaters in 2021. And I am starting to realize that I do get a lot out of social commentary films, especially now, like celebrities and rich people in Hollywood and all these people that have the money to make all these big movies and get these movies into theaters. Like, they're just fucking sellouts. Just very commercial, very sellout. I don't know. all this, I don't know, Hollywood right now, like, there's so much silence, and there was so much silence amongst the celebrities during the Black Lives Matter movement, and then we had millionaires and billionaires putting out PSAs telling America to stay indoors. Like, they would film themselves in their giant mansions, and they would say, like, "Stay indoors," and then they just treated the pandemic like one giant sick day that only they could afford. And again, now with Palestine and the genocide that is taking place there, so many celebrities are committed to staying silent about this genocide. It drives me crazy. And it's not like these celebrities are making art that reflects the times. If anything, they are just making Disney trash. I said it! It sucks. It sucks when you have an artist that you're looking up to and then they just don't say anything about the time that we're all going through because they're too rich that they're just so fucking far removed from it. It's so discouraging. So when I see social commentary, it's like weirdly validating in a way. It's like, yes, like that is what people have been going through. Like, it's just great to think that this movie hit such a big stage and it was made by such a big filmmaker that, you know, it's going to be pretty easy for people in the future to find it. I really fucking hope so. But I just hope Candyman 2021 is easily accessible for people, especially in the future. But it's awesome that this movie spoke about and it brought attention to the violence American Black communities experience every day. Every damn day. Still to this damn day. I'm going to put a little bit of a trigger warning. I'm going to talk about the death of Sonia Massey, who was gunned down by police in her own home. And I understand, like, if you don't have the space to talk about that right now, but if you're white, I do encourage you just to stick around for a little bit more, especially if you don't know much about Sonia Massey or if you don't recognize that name. Yeah, maybe just stick around. Because when I was looking into her case and the similarities of Anthony's death, blew my fucking mind. Blew my mind. Okay, so just 1 month ago, from the time that I'm recording this, I'm going to break some podcast rules and let you know I'm recording this episode in August. So last month, Sonia Massey was killed. Sonia Massey is a Black woman that was killed by cops in her own home. She called the police because she needed help with a potential prowler outside her home. The cops came into her home. They checked the perimeter. They didn't find anybody. So, they go inside her house, I guess, to just also check. And the police saw that Sonia was boiling water and they ordered her to remove it from the stove. So she goes to remove it from the stove. And while she's grabbing the pot, she's ordered to put the pot down. That's what she was doing. And Sonia, she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And she said that twice. This could be coming from a place of fear. I get it. The situation is already out of control. So Sonia Massey was picking up the pot. She was removing it from the stove. And she was saying, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Literally, it was hardly audible. And the cop said, "You better not, or I will shoot you in your fucking face." And then he draws his gun. And Sonia, she kept following instructions. She was following instructions this entire time. And now she's beginning to apologize. And that is when she was shot 3 times in the face by Deputy Sean Patrick Grayson. The assisting officer that was with Grayson also had his gun drawn I don't know their gender, but that officer also had their gun drawn and pointed at Sonia as well. After Sonia was shot, the assisting officer went to go get the medical kit, and Deputy Sean Patrick Grayson instructed the assisting officer not to grab the kit. Not saying they could have saved her, but just to not even give a fuck. Or to shoot her so badly to where it's helpless. She had a pot of water. We're not done. It continues. So Massey's family reported that the cops initially said that Sonia's death was a suicide or a neighbor. Interesting. And it reminds me of Brianna from CANDYMAN in the back of that police SUV, and she was given 2 untrue ultimatums to make it seem like the cops were justified in using deadly force against Anthony. That's exactly what they were doing here. They were trying to cover up yet another murder by the police department. And Sonia's family also revealed that one of Sonia's ancestors, William Donegan, was lynched in the Springfield race riot of 1908 and pronounced dead in the same hospital as Sonia. And that 1908 riot led to the founding of the NAACP. We're not done yet. And earlier this year, on March 16th, Sonia Massey's 4-year-old nephew was killed by the police after he was used as a human shield. Oh, a 4-year-old being used as a human shield? Doesn't matter. Like, and that, yeah, so that happened in March. And then in July, Sonia's murdered. And ex-deputy Sean Patrick Grayson, who killed Sonia, was discharged from the military before he was hired by the police department due to DUIs. And his lawyer, when it came to the Sonia Massey trial, murder trial, his lawyer tried to explain that Sean Patrick Grayson was not a threat to society, and that Sean Patrick Grayson has stage 3 colon cancer. This shithead is 30 years old and has stage 3 colon cancer. His DUIs made me do some research. And you want to know what can cause colon cancer, especially at such a young age? Heavy drinking. So this guy who was discharged from the military for, quote, serious misconduct, and I'm connecting my own dots here with the suspected drinking problem and the colon cancer. This guy seems like he is absolutely unfit to hold a firearm, and he shouldn't have been hired to the police department with his record. But he was probably hired to the police department because he had the military on his resume, even though he was kicked out for serious misconduct. Unlike most officers in America who have shot and killed so many people, Grayson was fired. And he was also found guilty on 5 counts and will now spend his days in jail. And I hope his time in prison is the hell he expects it to be. I hope everybody in there knows who he fucking is. This happened last month. And the pain that the Massey family has to constantly go through is just one family out of millions that experience this every day. White people don't go through this at all. We don't go through it. And then when white people hear about this stuff, it's like so mind-blowing to us that a lot of white people think it's not true. It's true, dude. It's true. There is a huge, huge, huge problem with the justice system in America. There's a huge problem with racism in America. And the justice system, much like a lot of things in America, it stems directly back to slavery. Directly back to slavery. That's the system. That's the system. This country was founded on genocide. It was built on slavery. And here we are today, acting like that shit didn't happen. Not even acting like it didn't happen, covering it up and still trying to operate that way. Look into it, man. Look into it if you haven't already, especially if you're white. Look into it. Look into your local elections, and learn about the communities in your area. We have an election coming up next month that is pretty important. And if you've never voted, maybe you can start there. And I know there is a thought out there that if your vote doesn't matter, I know it can feel that way, but it matters to me that you vote. And when I hear that my peers or that like-minded individuals are going out there and they're voting, it really does fill me with even just a little bit shred of hope. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but just seeing like-minded individuals go to the poll, it really does fill me with hope, And hope is something we haven't had in a while, and for most of us, ever. Some of us have never had hope. And I don't want to guilt trip you, so whatever. So if you're curious about registering, if you're curious about voting, check out vote.org. Vote.org. Not sponsored. I'm not sure if I have to say that. I still don't have a good lawyer. He won't return my calls. Yeah. let's go ahead and wrap this episode up. Well, my friends, that was me dipping my toes into the Candyman universe. Man, I love Candyman. I do. I consider myself a fan, a little amateur fan of Candyman. So, which Candyman is better? I don't know. The first one has the lore, the drama, the nostalgia, the practical effects. And the second one has the lore, social commentary, and impactful message. I love it all, and I cannot and will not choose. But the real question is, do y'all think that there will be a fifth Candyman? They have to. There has to be a fifth Candyman. Come on. More Candyman movies. Or at least just one more. Just give us just one more. But if you don't want to give us one more, it's totally fine. Like, come on, like at least just one more. You know, we have to say his name 5 times, so it only makes sense for there to be 5 Candyman movies. Come on, please. So what do you think about Candyman? Which was your favorite, and how can you choose? Do you have a favorite scene? Do you have a favorite actor, moment? And, and don't forget to rate and subscribe to this podcast. It really helps a lot. And I really do appreciate every single listen and follow and review. And you can also find me on social media where I post all my dumb little videos. My handle is lucky.damn.day on pretty much everything except for Twitter. I don't go there. It freaks me out. I tried it once and I was overwhelmed by all of these angry white men knocking each other out. I didn't stand a chance at making my own algorithm. It was disturbing. It was strange. Anyway, I will see you next week when I cover our final movie of the Halloween category. And our next movie is Halloween from the 70s. Yeah, the original Halloween. I've never seen any of the Halloween movies. There's actually a lot of horror movies I haven't seen that I should have seen by now. I think we all know that I haven't seen anything. Okay, well, thank you so much for sitting with me on this one. I know it got a little bit heavy, but we need to talk about it. We gotta talk about it. Okay, all right. I love you. Take care of yourselves, please. Drink water, and I will see you next week.